A life settlement broker represents you, the seller. A provider buys your policy for itself. This video is educational. It is not financial, tax, or legal advice. Citizens Life Group is a licensed life settlement brokerage. It is not a life settlement provider and does not buy policies. Reviewed by Jeffrey Hallman Sr., Florida License 0266. Both kinds of company are licensed and legitimate. The real question is who works for you when the price gets set. A broker is a licensed professional who represents the seller, owes a fiduciary duty, shops the policy to several institutional buyers, and does not buy the policy. To shop a policy simply means to take it to many buyers and ask each one what they will pay. A provider, also called a direct buyer, is the licensed company that actually buys the policy, often on behalf of large institutional investors. A provider represents itself, and it usually makes a single offer. The right to sell a policy is long settled. In Grigsby versus Russell, decided by the United States Supreme Court in 1911, the court held that a life insurance policy is property the owner may sell or assign like any other asset. So the question in front of a seller is not whether a policy can be sold. It is who stands on the seller's side of the table while the price is decided. Side by side, the real difference is representation, not upfront cost. Both cost you nothing upfront. Look at 7 plain things. First, who they work for. A broker works for you, the seller, while a provider works for itself, the buyer. Second, the legal duty. A broker owes you a fiduciary duty and must act in your best interest, while a provider owes you no such duty. Third, how many offers you see. A broker shops the policy to several buyers who compete, while a provider typically gives you one. Fourth, who negotiates. With a broker, the broker negotiates for you, and with a provider, you negotiate alone. Fifth, how each one is paid. A broker is paid a commission from the sale proceeds, disclosed in writing first, while a provider earns from the spread, which is the difference between what your policy is worth to it and what it pays you. Sixth, the upfront cost in both cases is nothing. Seventh, the better fit. A broker fits when you want the highest competitive offer for your policy, and a direct sale fits when you already have a buyer you trust and want to skip representation. Now, one row decides most of the others. When someone is legally on your side, the offers, the negotiation, and the final number tend to follow. Competition is what moves the number, several buyers bidding instead of one buyer naming a price. Consider a simple illustration. One buyer makes a take-it-or-leave-it offer of $60,000. After several buyers compete for the same policy, the offer reaches $140,000. This is an illustration of how competition can affect price, not an actual transaction or a prediction of your result. Individual outcomes vary with age, health, policy type, and market conditions, and not every policy qualifies or receives an offer. So why would two buyers value the same policy so differently? Because they read the same file differently. Buyers differ in their life expectancy estimates, in their cost of capital, and in what their portfolios need, so the same policy is simply worth more to one buyer than to another. A broker's competitive process surfaces the highest of those values. The Government Accountability Office described this role in its 2010 report on life insurance settlements. A broker may solicit bids from multiple providers with the goal of getting the best price for the policy owner. The difference is not luck. It is competition. And even after a broker's commission comes out of the higher number, a seller in this position commonly keeps more than the single offer would have paid. There is no guarantee in any individual case. Usually not. The commission comes out of a higher competitive number, and it is disclosed in writing first. A broker's commission is a percentage of the offer. It is disclosed in writing before the seller agrees to anything. There is no upfront cost, and nothing is owed if the policy does not sell. Because competition usually raises the offer by more than the commission costs, the seller often nets more even after the commission is paid. The right comparison is the net, not the gross. And the seller can make that comparison because the commission is disclosed in advance. Here's the part that surprises people. A direct buyer also builds its own margin into the price it offers. That margin simply is not labeled a commission. So a sale with no stated fee is not the same as a higher amount in your pocket. And one more point about money. Part of a life settlement may be taxable, so a seller should confirm the after-tax figure with a tax advisor. None of this means a broker nets more in every single case. It means the seller should see the disclosed commission, compare the net offers, and decide from there. A broker's duty to you is written into law. A licensed broker represents only the seller. Under Florida's Viatical Settlement Act, which is the part of Florida law that covers life settlements, a licensed broker is deemed to represent only the seller and owes a fiduciary duty regardless of how the broker is paid. That rule appears in Florida Statutes Section 6, 26.9.916, subsection 5, and again in the definition at Section 626.9.911, subsection 11. This is not only a Florida idea. The National Council of Insurance Legislators, through its Life Settlements Model Act, which was readopted in 2024, sets the same standard. That model law, alongside the model acts of the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, is the template most states follow. The Financial Industry Regulatory Authority describes the same split in its investor guidance, titled, What You Should Know About Life Settlements. A broker shops your policy on your behalf, while a person tied to a single company may only return that company's offer. A provider carries no such duty to you. There's a related point for trust-owned policies. A trustee selling a policy held in trust is generally expected to seek competitive offers rather than accept the first one, which lines up with exactly what a seller's broker does. Citizens Life Group is a licensed life settlement brokerage that represents the seller. Selling direct can be reasonable in a few cases, and there is nothing wrong with a provider. There is nothing wrong with a provider. It is simply the other side of the table. A direct sale can make good sense in three situations. First, when the seller has already run a competitive process and is now choosing among real offers. Second, when the seller knows and trusts a specific buyer and values speed above the last few dollars. Third, when the policy is small enough that the dollar gap from competition is modest. Speed is a fair consideration. A direct sale can close quickly because there is only one party to satisfy. A competitive process takes a little longer because the broker is gathering and comparing offers. For many sellers, the larger number is worth the extra time. For a few, it is not, and that is a legitimate choice. In most other situations, the seller who lets buyers compete starts from a stronger position. And because a broker review carries no upfront cost and no obligation, most people at least find out what competition would produce before they accept a single offer. Before you sign with anyone, verify the license. Brokers and providers are licensed by state insurance departments. In Florida, a license can be confirmed by name through the Florida Department of Financial Services licensee search, which is open to the public. Ask for the commission in writing before you commit so you can see the net offer first, not after. Whoever you work with, the same rule holds. A broker represents the seller, and a provider represents itself. Citizens Life Group is a licensed life settlement brokerage that represents the seller. It is not a provider, and it does not buy policies. There's no guarantee that any policy will receive an offer. What a seller can do at no obligation is learn whether competition would change the number before accepting the first one. This video is educational. It is not financial, tax, or legal advice. The decision about your own policy belongs to you, ideally with a licensed broker and your own tax and legal advisors at the table.